Russia had joined the modern European state system under Tsar Peter the Great in a manner unlike any other society. On both sides, it proved a wary embrace. Peter had been born in 1672 into a still essentially medieval Russia. By then, Western Europe had evolved through the age of discovery, the Renaissance and the Reformation. It stood at the threshold of the scientific revolution and the Enlightenment, a gigantic, at 6 feet 8 inches, intensely energetic figure. The young Tsar set out to transform his empire in a reign that expressed the extremes of Russia's many traits and aspirations. Determined to explore the fruits of modernity and measure Russia's achievement against them, Peter was a frequent visitor in the shops and factories of Moscow's émigré German quarter. As a young ruler, he toured Western capitals, where he tested modern techniques and professional disciplines personally. Having found Russia backward compared with the West, Peter announced his aim to sever the people from their former Asiatic customs and instruct them how all Christian peoples in Europe comport themselves. A series of ukases issued forth. Russia would adopt Western manners and hairstyles, seek out foreign technological expertise, build a modern army and navy, round out its borders with wars against nearly every neighboring state, break through to the Baltic Sea, and construct a new capital city of St. Petersburg. The last, Russia's window to the West, was built by hand, by a casualty-racked, conscripted labor force on a marshy wilderness chosen at Peter's personal command when he put his sword into the ground and announced, "Here shall be a town." When traditionalists rebelled, Peter crushed them and, at least according to the accounts that reached the West, took personal charge of the torture and decapitation of the uprising's leaders. Peter's tour de force transformed Russian society and vaulted his empire into the first rank of Western great powers. Yet the suddenness of the transformation left Russia with the insecurities of a parvenu. In no other empire would the absolute ruler have felt it necessary to remind her subjects in writing, as Peter's successor Catherine the Great did half a century later, that Russia is a European state. This is clearly demonstrated by the following observations. Russia's reforms were invariably carried out by ruthless autocrats on a population docile in its desire to overcome its past rather than energized by confidence in its future. Nevertheless, like his successor, reformers and revolutionaries, when his reign was over, his subjects and their descendants credited him for having driven them, however mercilessly, to achievements they had shown little evidence of seeking. According to recent polls, Stalin, too, has acquired some of his recognition in contemporary Russian thinking. Catherine the Great, Russia's autocratic reformist ruler from 1762 to 1796, and overseer of a historic period of cultural achievement and territorial expansion, including Russia's conquest of the Khanate of Crimea and its lying low of the Zaporizhian host, the one-time autonomous Cossack realm in what is today central Ukraine, justified Russia's extreme autocracy as the only system of government that could hold together such a gigantic territory. The extent of the dominion requires an absolute power to be vested in that person who rules over it. It is expedient so to be that the quick dispatch of affairs sent from distant parts might make ample amends for the delay occasioned by the great distance of the places. Every other form of government whatsoever would not only have been prejudicial to Russia, but would even have proved its entire ruin. Thus, what in the West was regarded as arbitrary authoritarianism was presented in Russia as an elemental necessity, the precondition for functioning governance. The Tsar, like the Chinese emperor, was an absolute ruler, endowed by tradition with mystical powers, and overseeing a territory of continental expanse. Yet the position of the Tsar differed from that of his Chinese counterpart in one important respect. In the Chinese view, the emperor ruled wherever possible through the serenity of his conduct. In the Russian view, the leadership of the Tsar prevailed through his ability to impose his will by unchallengeable assertions of authority and to impress all onlookers the Russian state's overwhelmingly vast power. The Chinese emperor was conceived of as the embodiment of the superiority of Chinese civilization, inspiring other peoples to come and be transformed. The Tsar was seen as the embodiment of the defense of Russia against enemies surrounding it on all sides. Thus, while the emperors were lauded for their impartial, aloof benevolence, the 19th century historian Nikolai Karamzin saw in a Tsar's harshness a sign that he was fulfilling his true calling. In Russia, the sovereign is the living law. He favors the good and punishes the bad. A soft heart in a monarch is counted as a virtue only when it is tempered with the sense of duty, to use sensible severity.